There is no chimney in this house. Chimneys do not reach northern Europe for another 200 years. The smoke climbs into the rafters, sits there, and finds its own way out through a single hole cut in the roof. The Norse had a word for that hole: luri. That is the level of technology we are dealing with. People lived through Scandinavian winters in it for centuries. First, a correction most videos skip. There was no single Viking house. In Iceland, Greenland, and parts of northern Norway, where there was almost no timber, the walls were stacked turf, 1 to 2 meters thick. In Denmark, the walls were clay-lined or upright planks set into the ground. Same century, different problem. So when you hear the Vikings did this, ask which ones. Start with the wool, because everything starts with the wool. Norse sheep carried 2 coats, a long, coarse outer fleece that shed rain and spray, and underneath it a short, fine, crimped undercoat. In Icelandic, tog and thel. Here is the part that gets told wrong constantly. They did not spin the two together, they combed them apart. The tough outer hair went into the warp. The threads held under tension. The soft undercoat went into the weft. One animal, sorted, gives you a cloth that sheds weather on the outside and holds warmth against the skin. Penelope Walton found exactly that at Coppergate in York. Hard-spun dark warp, soft, pale weft. She named the fabric vaðmál. And no, it does not keep you warm soaked through. That is a marketing line. Damp, it still works. Wet through, in a North Atlantic wind, wool will kill you like anything else. In Iceland, that cloth became money. Under the law code Grágás, written down in 1117, vaðmál had to be woven to a fixed width and a fixed weave to count as legal tender. Icelanders paid debts, taxes, and church tithes in it for 400 years. An ounce of silver was reckoned at 6 to 7.5 ells. Sell a man cloth full of holes, and you could be outlawed for it. That happens in Ljósvetninga saga. Now your feet. Knitting had not reached Europe yet. The earliest knitted objects found here are Spanish, from the 1200s. Socks and mittens were made instead by nalbinding, a far older craft worked with a single blunt needle, looping the yarn back through itself. Its great virtue, in the excavator's own words, it does not unravel when cut. One survived. It came out of a backyard at Coppergate, from a layer dated to roughly 930 to 975. Viking age Jorvik. It is the only nalbinding find ever made in Britain. It had been worn until the heel gave out and then patched. Whether a Norse settler made it or a local Yorkshire hand copying one, the excavator would not say. But you can go and look at it. Inside, down the middle of the hall, ran the long fire. Langölder, benches along both sides. You will hear it was never allowed to go out. The language argues otherwise. Old Norse has a separate word, malelda, the meal fire, kindled in the evening. And fire steels turn up in graves right across Scandinavia. People who carry a striker light on their belt are people who relight fires. What they did do is bank the embers under ash overnight, so the morning did not start with flint. On many farms in Denmark and along the North Sea coast, cattle were stalled at the far end of the same building. At Hedeby, the cow dung is still in the ground. Warm bodies in a cold house, yes. But no Norse source gives that as the reason. And by the 10th century, Danish farms were already moving the animals out into separate byres. Food had to be dense, and this is where the internet goes furthest wrong. Butter and skyr, yes. Whale blubber rendered on the coast of northern Norway, yes. But the base of the diet was grain. Barley turns up in about 70% of Viking-age cereal finds, bread and porridge most days. And when archaeologists find Norse settlers in Greenland boiling every last scrap of fat out of animal bone, that is not a diet, that is hunger. Winter travel. Bone skates, cut from horse or cattle leg bones, the underside worked flat and polished. They have no edge, they do not cut into the ice, they slide on top of it, so you cannot push off sideways the way a skater does. You keep your legs almost straight and drive yourself forward with a pole, like punting a boat. That is measured, not guessed. Roughly 1 meter per second at about 3.5 times the effort of modern skates. You will also read that they greased them with pork fat. That comes from a Swedish writer in 1555, 500 years too late. And when people actually try it, the grease scrapes straight off on the first stride. One last thing. Saturday in Old Norse is laugardagur. Laug, bath, dagur, day, bath day. It is the one day in the Norse week that is not a god, and it survived a 12th century Icelandic bishop deliberately purging the pagan names out of the calendar. Whether people really bathed every Saturday, we do not know. The one source that says so is an English monk writing 200 years later, explaining why English women preferred Danes. The word is good evidence that washing mattered. The schedule is a guess. No cotton, no down, no chimney, just sorted wool, stacked turf, a banked fire, and a very clear idea of what winter was going to do to you.